that you knew about the people in the movies, cause she has no clue. Kristy doesn't know movies. Kristy doesn't know movies. Kristy doesn't know movies.
Hey, welcome to an all-new episode of Kristy Doesn't Know Movies. How you doing?
Hey. That's all I got for you.
Today we're going to be focusing on some 80s movies. Like, pretty
Whoa.
big ones. How do you feel about that?
I don't know if I've watched anything from the 80s.
Okay.
Land Before Time from the 80s, the first one?
90s, I think.
Alright, then I don't think I've ever watched anything from the 80s.
You ready for a movie?
No, but go ahead.
What do you think 1986's Ferris Bueller's Day Off is about?
Alright. I believe it features Matthew Broderick,
Uh-huh.
the voice actor for adult Simba.
Right?
That's what I know him from. He plays a little shit kid who is just like, hey, I'm Ferris Bueller, and I don't want to fucking go to school today. So he skips school, and he gets into multiple shenanigans.
Okay.
So, like, I feel like whoever wrote this movie had, like, barely ever been to school. So, like, for some reason, they probably have, like, the principal, like, chasing them down or something. Like, as if that's what, like, principals do. They just fucking chase down children who are skipping school. Like, that's what truancy officers are for. But I feel like this movie didn't acknowledge truancy officers, because that would take too much effort. So Matthew Broderick, he's just like, fuck school, and he doesn't go, and then so the principal is chasing him down. So it's like not even a relaxing day off school. He could have just not gone to school. He could have been like, I'm fucking sick, and then just stayed home. But he decided to, like, pull some, like, elaborate fucking stunt and then, like, try to hang out at the mall as if, like, that wasn't blatantly obvious that, like, some fucking child is hanging out at the mall during school hours. It was probably, like, a Wednesday or something, too. So, like, you couldn't even be like, oh, it's a fucking PA day. So he was hanging out at the mall, probably buying, like, it was the 80s, right?
Uh-huh.
He definitely gets Dairy Queen. 200% he goes in for a fucking dilly bar. So that's the first thing he does. The first thing he does is he walks to the mall and he gets himself a fucking dilly bar. And then this
What's
movie
the
probably
dealio?
had like severe product placement, and like they basically paid for the entire movie in just like the montage of the mall scene. He probably went into like a fucking Old Navy, and then he like hopped down the mall a bit farther to like JC Penney. At some point he went into like the Gap. And so he's just doing all this stuff, and then he like probably sees some like older kids also skipping school, and they've got like skateboards, and he's just like, oh, I'm gonna be rad. So he steals their skateboard and just starts fucking skateboarding through the mall with his fucking dilly bars still. And then
Is this how you imagine the 80s?
yeah.
Skateboarding
Like,
through a mall with a fucking dilly bar?
and then the fucking Fonz comes out and he's like, hey.
Wow.
Anyways,
I don't even
yeah,
think that was an 80s show.
I don't care. I didn't exist then. Anyways, so yeah, he's fucking skateboarding through the mall with his dilly bar, and then he like stops abruptly, and he's like, oh shit. And because like he sees his principal, so then he has to like hide, but he has to hide. That's when he goes into JC Penney.
Okay.
He's got to hide from his principal, and so he's like going in the change room, just to get away from the principal. And he's like, that was close. I better, like, not. And then so he tries to go out. So then he decides since the mall's not safe, he's going to go to the arcade next. So he goes to the arcade. And he puts all his quarters into trying to think of a struggling game that needed product placement. Centipede. So he goes and he puts all his fucking quarters on Centipede, and then he's just playing that for a while. But then he sees his principal like stalking him, and the principal like locks eyes with him, and he's like, "Oh no!" So he has to like ditch the arcade, and so then he runs out, and then it's basically just like he just keeps going to like typical places 80s teenagers would go. I can't think of any more. The mall and the arcade. That's
Dilly bars and Centipede.
yeah. And then so yeah, he runs, and I feel like probably by the end of the day he ends up back at the school, and the principal is just like, "You've been cutting class." And he's like, "No, I just had terrible diarrhea all day." And because he gets found out in like the bathrooms, right? And so high school bathrooms always stink, so the principal can't tell just using his nose if Ferris Bueller is lying to him about having terrible shits all day, or if like that's just what the bathroom smells like constantly. So then he gets away with it in the end. And then the next day he's like, he just goes back to school, and then he's bragging to all his friends about how he fucking skated around the mall eating dilly bars and went and played Centipede. And then his friends are all like, "That's so cool." But he doesn't realize the principal was behind him. And the principal heard the whole thing. And he's like, "Bueller!" And then the movie ends.
That's fucking brutal.
Is that one you've seen and care for?
I wouldn't say I care for it. It's not a bad movie.
If you like dilly
I
bars
like
and
your
Centipede?
I like yours better.
Oh, okay.
It's still brutal though.
You're welcome.
Okay. What do you think 1985's The Breakfast Club is about?
Alright. This one's got... Fuck. What were that group of kids... Not kids. That group of... Brat Pack! Okay. So this is a Brat Pack movie, which means it had Molly Ringwald.
Okay.
It also had the guy I mix up for Patrick Swayze a lot, but it's not Patrick Swayze. I think he's too
Who is
old. I also want to see Matt Damon, and I feel like it's not Matt Damon. Holy shit, Molly.
Are you just
Ringwald?
constantly thinking about Matt Damon?
Is it Matt something? No.
Just take a stab at it.
I'm trying to think. Matt... Is Matt Dillon?
Is it really gonna make
Matt
a difference?
Dillon a person? Is it an actor?
Let's just go with that.
Okay.
Molly Ringwald, Matt Dillon, Matt Damon.
Not Matt Damon. Matt Dillon. The fucking blonde one. I think there's a blonde one. I don't know. Anyway, just Molly Ringwald and Matt Dillon. Okay.
Okay.
Let's throw fucking Marky-Mark in there. I don't know. It seems like he might have showed up for this movie. Okay, so it focuses on those three kids, and they, I feel like it's called Breakfast Club, but they're actually just like kids who keep getting into shit in school, and so for some reasons, instead of like being in detention after school, they have to come in early. And so this was filmed in one single like long take, and it just happens in one single room, and it's like it inspired Clerks, because it's just like these kids sitting around in a room in detention before school starts, and they're just like kind of shooting the shit, talking about crap, and like occasionally the teacher is just like, why the fuck are you talking? Like, you're supposed to be in detention. And they're like, wow, Mr. Blah blah blah, you can suck it. And like, that's it was edgy at the time. That was fucking edgy. And so these just fucking edgy kids are shooting the shit about life and teenager problems and fucking having hormones and feelings and thoughts. And it's just the three of them sitting there in one single long take.
I can't take it seriously, Matt Dillon and Marky-Mark having that conversation.
With Molly Ringwald.
Yeah. Okay, continue.
I don't know what else there is to say about this movie. It's just, like, I wouldn't watch
So
it.
your version is a fucking, like, existential minimalist, like, art film.
Yeah.
And who's directed this piece of something?
I don't know. Whoever always directed those three actors that I've determined are in the Brat Pack.
Yeah, who's that?
Probably one of them. Matt Dillon probably also directed it. He started, directed. He didn't write it. Somebody else wrote it. I don't know who the fuck would have written it. But it's not good. It's one of those things where, like, at the time people went, they were dumb fucking kids who watched it in the first place. They're like, this is so fucking deep and challenging, and it just speaks to the human condition. And then, like, and then you watch it, like, years later when movies...
That character is so on point. You have that, like, down to a science.
Thanks. But years later, when, like, stuff's gotten better, like, movies can be better, and they're, like, more interesting, and they're not slow as fuck. Like, now that basically your movies are all, like, on steroids, and you pack, like, 80s movies into, like, 1 minute of a current film. Like, they just go so fucking fast now. Like, I wouldn't be able to watch this movie now. Like, it's unwatchable if you're not sitting there for nostalgia's sake. Or if you're not, like, some shitty hipster kid who's just like, I wasn't born in the right time period. Like, that's the only...
This turned into a rant really quick. We're gonna have to change the name of the show to Kristy fucking rants about movies.
Alright, well, that's the movie. Like, I can't explain it anymore. Shitty fucking people bullshitting the human condition, trying to cause teenagers to have existential crises. And it worked at the time.
It's crises. You're a teacher. Come on.
Pluto's not a planet.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Don't watch that movie.